Kate Ward woke up at 5:47 a.m. to the sound of her alarm clock in her one-bedroom apartment on the east side of El Paso. The sun had not yet risen over the Franklin Mountains, and the city lights flickered in the pre-dawn haze. At 28, she had been working as a cashier at Food King Supermarket for 4 years, and every morning began the same. Coffee from a cheap instant jar, a quick shower, and an attempt not to think about how much money she owed. Her credit card debt was $23,847. Kate knew that number by heart because she checked her balance every morning on her cracked phone. Medical bills after her appendix was removed last year, car repairs, groceries, rent. It all piled up like sand in the desert that surrounded the city. Working at the cash register, Kate watched people, families with children buying groceries for the week. Elderly couples who good-naturedly argued about which cereal to buy. Young men in work clothes buying energy drinks and sandwiches before their shift at the factory. They all seemed to be part of something bigger than herself. In the evenings after work, Kate would return to her apartment and open her laptop. She had created her profile on the dating site True Connection 3 months ago after a particularly difficult day serving a wedding party buying groceries for their celebration. The photos were simple, her in her supermarket uniform, smiling sincerely but looking a little tired. In her profile description, she wrote honestly, "I work as a cashier, love movies and cooking. Looking for a serious relationship with a kind person. Not interested in games or wasting time. 700 miles to the northeast, in a house on the outskirts of El Paso. Danny Harrison spent his days in a chair specially reinforced with metal braces. Weighing 490 pounds, he hadn't left the house in 2 years. The last time he was in the hospital was when he was taken there on a special stretcher because of heart problems. Danny inherited the house from his late mother, a small 3-bedroom ranch built in the 1970s. Wide doorways and no steps made it relatively accessible, although Danny mainly moved between the living room, kitchen, and bathroom. He hadn't seen the bedroom upstairs in 3 years. Mark Stevens came every other day to help with shopping and cleaning. A former Marine, he worked as a warehouse loader and was the only person Danny interacted with face-to-face on a regular basis. Mark never pretended that the situation was normal, but he didn't judge either. He just came, did what needed to be done, and sometimes they watched football together. His disability benefits amounted to $1,247 per month, enough to pay for utilities, food, and medication. Danny ordered groceries online, watched movies through streaming services, and his social interaction was limited to internet forums and, more recently, dating sites. Danny's profile on True Connection did not include any photos. In his description, he wrote, 35 years old, receiving disability benefits due to health issues. I live alone in my own house, looking for a woman for a serious relationship. I can provide stability and commitment. Appearance is not important. It's the soul that matters. The first message came from Danny on a Thursday evening in mid-February. Hi, Kate. I read your profile. You seem like a very sincere person. Working as a cashier isn't easy. I know because my mom worked in retail for many years. I'd like to get to know you better. Danny. Kate replied the next day. Hi, Danny. Thanks for your message. You're right about the job. It can be tough sometimes, but I try to find the good in every day. Tell me about yourself. The correspondence continued for weeks. Danny talked about his home, how he loved to cook, although he mostly ordered food, movies, and books. Kate shared stories about her work, her financial difficulties, and her dreams of one day going to the ocean. Danny was an attentive listener. He remembered the details of her stories, asked how her day had gone, and offered advice on difficult clients. When Kate mentioned her debts, he wrote, "Money is just numbers. What matters is how a person treats other people." After a month of correspondence, Danny suggested they talk on the phone. His voice was soft, a little hoarse, but kind. They talked in the evenings, sometimes until 2 a.m. Danny talked about his childhood, about his mother, who worked 2 jobs to support them after his father left. He talked about how his weight problems began in his teens and gradually limited his mobility. I don't leave the house, he admitted during one of their conversations. I have health problems. But I can love and care for someone better than many who go out to bars every weekend. Kate was touched by his honesty. In a world where most men on dating sites exaggerated their achievements or lied, Danny seemed surprisingly open. In March, he suggested they meet. I understand this is an unusual situation, Danny said on the phone. I can't come to your place or meet you at a restaurant, but you can come to my house. Mark will be there if that makes you feel more comfortable. Kate agreed. The address turned out to be in a quiet neighborhood with small houses and well-kept yards. Danny's house stood out with its ramp instead of steps and specially widened doorways. When Kate knocked on the door, she heard slow footsteps and heavy breathing. Danny opened the door, leaning on a special cane. He was even bigger than she had imagined, but his face was kind and his eyes were sincere. "Kate," he said simply, "thank you for coming." The house was clean inside, but adapted to special needs. Reinforced furniture, handrails on the walls, a special bed in the living room. Danny moved slowly but with dignity. They drank tea and talked for 3 hours. Danny was an intelligent, well-read man with a good sense of humor. He didn't feel sorry for himself or ask for pity. He was just himself, a lonely man who wanted to find love. 2 weeks later, Kate told her best friend, Grace Morales, about Danny. They had known each other since college, and Grace was one of the few people Kate trusted completely. "Are you serious?" Grace sat across from Kate in the cafe, her eyebrows raised in surprise. "Kate, you don't even know him that well." "We've been talking every day for 2 months," Kate replied. "He's a kind, honest man. Yes, he has health problems, but that doesn't make him a bad person." "What about money? You said he's on welfare. He has a house. He has a steady income, and he offered to help with my debts." Grace shook her head. "It sounds too fast, Kate. People on the internet aren't always who they say they are." But Kate had already made up her mind. In April, 3 months after their first message, Danny proposed over the phone. "I know this may sound crazy," he said, "but I've never felt this way about another person. You give me hope. Marry me, Kate." She said yes. Wedding planning began the day after the proposal. Danny called Kate early in the morning before she left for work. "I didn't sleep all night," he said, his voice sounding excited. "I was thinking about our wedding. We can have the ceremony here, at home. I have the money my mom left in a savings account. We'll make it beautiful." Kate sat on the edge of her bed, holding the phone with trembling hands. The reality of what was happening was just beginning to sink in. "Danny, I need time to think about it. It's a big step." Of course, he quickly agreed. "But Kate, I don't want to wait long. I've been alone for so long. I can't take it anymore." There was something insistent in his voice that made Kate feel slightly uncomfortable. But she chalked it up to nervousness. A week later, they met again to discuss the details. Danny had made a detailed list. The coffee table in front of his chair was covered with scribbled sheets of paper. "The priest can come to us," Danny explained, pointing to his notes. "Father Miguel from Sacred Heart Church has agreed to perform the ceremony at home. It costs $300. We'll order flowers from Desert Blooms. They deliver. As for a photographer, well, Mark can take pictures on his phone." Kate noticed that all the plans revolved around Danny's house. "What about guests? My family lives in Austin, so..." Danny's face darkened. "How many people do you want to invite?" "Grace, of course. Maybe a few colleagues from work, and my Aunt Linda. She's like a mother to me." "Too many people," Danny muttered. "The house isn't set up for a crowd, and I'm not used to having a lot of people around." Kate saw his hands clench into fists. Sweat beaded on his forehead, even though the house was cool. "Danny, are you okay?" Yes, he took a deep breath. "I just get nervous sometimes. When there are too many changes at once, They agreed to limit themselves to 4 guests: Grace, Mark, Aunt Linda, and Kate's colleague named Rosa. The next day, Danny called again. "Kate, I've been thinking about your debts. After the wedding, we'll be a family. I want you to quit your job at the supermarket. You'll take care of the house, take care of me. I can provide for us. Danny, your allowance won't cover all the expenses. I have savings. And I thought we should take out life insurance on each other. That's what married people do." Just in case something happens, Kate was silent. Something in his tone seemed strange to her. "Just to be on the safe side," Danny continued. "I get sick a lot. If I die, you need to be taken care of. And if something happens to you, well, I'll need money for the funeral and stuff." "How much?" Kate asked. $250,000 each. The insurance agent said that's a reasonable amount for a young family. The meeting with Grace at the cafe the following weekend was tense. Grace ordered a double espresso and looked straight at Kate. "Tell me about the insurance," she said without preamble. "How did you know?" "I work at a bank, Kate." "The insurance company requested your credit history? $250,000 for a woman with $24,000 in debt?" That's a red flag. Kate felt her face flush. "It's normal for married couples." "No, it's not normal, especially when you've known each other for 4 months and he's living on disability." Grace leaned forward. "Kate, I checked him out. Danny Harrison. He hasn't left the house in 2 years. Before that, he had 3 ambulance calls in a year for mental health issues." "How do you know that?" "I have connections in medical facilities, panic attacks, paranoid episodes. Once he locked himself in the house and wouldn't let the paramedics in, thinking they had come to take him to a psychiatric hospital." Kate shook her head. "You're exaggerating. Danny's a good man. Yes, he has problems, but that doesn't mean... It means he's mentally unstable. And theoretically, he'll get $250,000 if you die." "Kate, think about it." That evening, Kate called Danny. "I need to ask you something. Grace says you've had mental health issues." A long pause. Then Danny sighed heavily. "Has your friend been checking up on me? Has she been digging through my medical records?" "Danny." "Yes, I have panic attacks." His voice turned cold. "When you're locked up in a house for years, when people look at you like you're a freak, it affects your mental health. But I haven't hurt anyone. Ever. I don't think you would hurt anyone." "Then why are you asking?" "Your friend is turning you against me." "She's jealous, Kate. Jealous that you found someone who truly loves you." Kate felt confused. "Grace isn't jealous. She's worried. She wants you to stay single like her. Some people can't stand other people's happiness." After the conversation, Kate couldn't sleep for a long time. Danny sounded different, harsher, more suspicious. But maybe he was just upset. Anyone would be upset to find out they were being checked up on. Mark Stevens came to Danny's house the next day for his weekly grocery delivery. He found Danny in an unusual state, excited and talkative. "Mark, I'm getting married," Danny announced as soon as his friend entered the house. Mark put the grocery bags on the kitchen table. "Seriously?" "Who?" "Kate, the girl I told you about. We're getting married in 3 weeks." 3 weeks? "Danny, don't you think that's too fast?" Danny's face clouded over. "Are you against me too? Like her friend?" "I'm not against you. I just want to make sure you're making the right decision." "The right decision?" Danny struggled to get up from his chair. "The right decision for whom? For you? For a society that thinks people like me don't deserve love?" Mark raised his hands in a calming gesture. "Danny, calm down. I know what people think," Danny continued, pacing the living room. "That I'm buying a woman. That she's with me out of pity or for money. But they don't understand. We're soulmates." Mark watched his friend pace back and forth, breathing heavily. At times like this, Danny became unpredictable. "Kate is the only good thing that's ever happened to me," Danny said, stopping and turning to Mark. "And no one is going to take her away from me. No one." There was such intensity in his voice that Mark felt a slight uneasiness. Of course, no one will take her away. Her friend is trying. She's digging through my medical records, turning Kate against me. But I won't let that happen. What do you mean? Danny sat back down in his chair, suddenly looking tired. Nothing. I've just waited so long for love. I can't lose it. Mark helped unpack the groceries, but felt uneasy all evening. Danny was becoming increasingly obsessive about his feelings for Kate. Every conversation they had now revolved around her. The insurance documents were signed on Wednesday. Kate came to Danny's after work, and they met with insurance agent Tom Ramirez in the living room. Standard procedure for newlyweds, Ramirez explained as he laid out the documents on the coffee table. Mutual life insurance for $250,000 each. The premiums will be low considering your age, Miss Ward. Kate noticed that the agent did not mention Danny's age and health. What about the medical examination? She asked. For amounts up to $300,000, no examination is required if the applicant is under 40 years of age and has no history of serious illness. Danny quickly signed the documents. Kate hesitated, holding the pen in her hands. It's just a formality, Danny said gently. We plan to live a long life together. Kate signed. On Friday, a week before the wedding, Grace made one last attempt. She came to Kate's house with a bottle of wine and a serious expression on her face. I found something else, Grace said, sitting down on the sofa. Danny called the police twice last year. He complained that his neighbors were watching him. Maybe they were. Kate, the neighbors are an elderly couple in their 70s. They hardly ever leave the house. The police report describes Danny as extremely agitated and paranoid. Kate poured herself some wine. Why are you so determined to ruin my happiness? Because I don't think you'll be happy. I think you might be in danger. Danger? From Danny? Grace, he can barely get out of his chair. Physical strength isn't the only way to cause harm. He isolates you. He wants you to quit your job, move in with him, depend on him completely. Kate put her glass down on the table. He offers me stability, a home, a family, love. He's offering you a prison. And if something goes wrong, if you want to leave, what? Grace looked her friend straight in the eye. Then you'll be worth $250,000 to him. The words hung in the air between them. Kate felt a chill in her stomach, but forced herself to ignore it. You're going too far, she said quietly. Grace stood up. I hope I'm wrong, Kate. I sincerely hope I am. After Grace left, Kate sat in the darkening apartment thinking. Insurance, medical records, paranoid calls to the police, it all added up to a disturbing picture. But then she remembered Danny's voice, his tenderness during their first conversations, his loneliness, which was so similar to her own. She called him. Danny, I've been thinking about what Grace said. And maybe we should wait to get married. Get to know each other better. The silence on the other end of the line was so long that Kate wondered if the connection had been lost. Kate, Danny finally said, his voice sounding strangely calm. You're the only thing keeping me from despair. If you leave me now, I don't know what I'll do. I'm not leaving you. I'm just suggesting we take it slow. No, we're getting married on Saturday, as planned. I can't wait any longer. There was such finality in his voice that Kate felt a chill. Okay, she said quietly. Saturday. Saturday, May 27th, began with rain. Kate woke up in her apartment for the last time as a single woman, listening to the raindrops drumming on the window. By 10 o'clock, she had to be at Danny's house for the ceremony at noon. She packed 2 bags with her belongings, everything that would fit from her modest possessions. Danny promised to pick up the rest later with Mark's help. She had given up the apartment a week ago, and the landlord had already found a new tenant. At 9:47, Kate stood in front of the mirror in a simple white dress she had bought at the department store for $89. Grace was supposed to arrive in 10 minutes to take her to Danny's, but the phone was silent. At 10:15, a message arrived. Kate, I can't be at your wedding. I'm sorry. I can't watch you make this mistake, but I'll be here when you need help. Kate felt a lump rise in her throat. She called a taxi. Danny's house was decorated modestly but tastefully. White roses stood in vases throughout the living room. Mark had hung garlands of daisies. The scent of lemon air freshener mingled with the fragrance of the flowers. "You look beautiful," Danny said when Kate entered. He was sitting in his chair wearing a new navy blue suit that had been specially tailored to fit him. His face glowed with happiness and relief. Aunt Linda arrived from Austin early in the morning. A woman in her 60s, she hugged Kate tightly, but with concern in her eyes. Rosa, a colleague from the supermarket, came with a bouquet of cheap carnations and stood awkwardly by the wall. Father Miguel, an elderly priest with gray hair, arrived at noon sharp. He had a brief conversation with the couple, explaining the meaning of marriage, and seemed slightly concerned about the unusual situation. The ceremony lasted 20 minutes. Danny couldn't stand up to exchange vows, so Kate stood next to his chair. When it was time for the kiss, she leaned toward him, and he cupped her face tightly with his hands. "Now you're mine," he whispered in her ear so quietly that no one else could hear. After the ceremony, the guests ate a simple cake and drank champagne. Aunt Linda tried to strike up a conversation with Danny, but he answered in monosyllables, never taking his eyes off Kate. Mark took pictures on his phone, and Rosa left early, citing her evening shift. By 4 o'clock, all the guests had left. Kate and Danny were left alone in the house that was now also her home. "Finally," Danny said with relief. "Just us." Kate sat down on the sofa opposite his chair. "Danny, I need to tell you something. Grace didn't come." Danny's face darkened. "She showed her true colors. I told you she wasn't a friend. She was just worried about me." "No." Danny leaned forward in his chair. "She wanted to ruin our day, our happiness, but she couldn't, could she?" There was such intensity in his voice that Kate felt uncomfortable. "Danny, I don't want to hear about her anymore." He raised his hand. "We're not going to talk about people who want to hurt us anymore." Kate wanted to argue, but something in his expression silenced her. That evening, they ordered pizza and watched a romantic comedy. Danny was gentle and attentive, but Kate noticed how he watched her every move. When she went to the bathroom, he asked where she was going. When her phone rang, he wanted to know who was calling. "It's just spam," she said, rejecting the unknown number. "Show me." Kate raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Show me your phone." "I want to make sure it's spam." She showed him the screen with the rejected call. Danny nodded with satisfaction. At night, in the special bed in the living room that was sturdy enough for two, Danny was a gentle husband. But even in intimate moments, Kate felt something intrusive in his touch, in the way he held her, as if he were afraid she would disappear. "I'm so happy," he whispered in the dark. "You'll never leave me, will you?" "Of course not," Kate replied, though deep down a feeling of unease was beginning to grow. Sunday began differently. Danny woke up early and watched Kate sleeping for a long time. When she opened her eyes, he was already watching her. "Good morning, wife," he said with a smile, but his eyes were tense. At breakfast, he took out the printed pages. "I made a schedule for you." "A schedule?" "Yes. You said you wanted to be a good wife. I thought about how to best organize our day." Kate took the sheets. They were filled with times. 7 a.m. Breakfast, 8 a.m. Cleaning, 10 a.m. Online shopping, 12 p.m. Lunch, and so on. Every minute of the day was planned out. "Danny, that's a little too detailed." His face tensed. "Don't you want to be organized?" "I do, but I need some freedom." "Freedom?" He put down his fork. "Freedom from what? Me?" "No, just the freedom to choose how to spend my day." Danny stared at her silently for a long 30 seconds. "Fine. Do what you want. But there was something cold in his tone that made Kate feel guilty. In the afternoon, while Kate was washing the dishes, Danny called her. "Kate, come here." She dried her hands and walked over to his chair. "Sit down." He patted the armrest of the chair. She sat down, and he put his arm around her waist. "I want you to understand something," he said seriously. "You are my whole world. I have no job, no friends except Mark. No family, only you." Kate felt his grip tighten. "It's a big responsibility," he continued, "to be someone's whole world, but I know you can handle it." "Danny, this isn't healthy. You need to have other interests, other people." "Why?" His voice became sharper. "Why do I need other people when I have you?" Kate tried to get up, but his grip tightened. "Where are you going?" "Just getting a drink of water." He let her go, but watched her walk to the kitchen and back. On Sunday evening, Kate tried to call Aunt Linda. The phone was on the coffee table next to Danny's chair. "Can I have my phone?" "Who do you want to call?" "Aunt Linda." To thank her for coming to the wedding, Danny took the phone and looked at the screen. "Call from here," he said, handing her the phone, but not moving away. The conversation with her aunt was short and awkward. Linda asked how she was doing and if she was happy. Kate answered in monosyllables, feeling her husband's gaze on her. "Everything's fine," she said. "Danny and I are very happy." After the call, Danny took the phone back. "Why are you taking it?" "I'll put it on charge," he said, but placed the phone on the table next to his chair. By Monday morning, Kate began to understand the extent of the situation. Danny was controlling her every move. He wanted to know what she was doing, who she was talking to, what she was thinking. When she tried to read a book, he interrupted her every few minutes with questions or requests. "Kate, bring me some water." "Kate, turn on the TV." "Kate, what are you reading?" When Mark arrived for his weekly visit, Kate felt relieved to have a third person present. "How are you, Mrs. Harrison?" Mark asked with a smile. "Fine," she replied, but caught his searching gaze. While Mark sorted through the groceries, Danny didn't leave Kate's side. When she tried to help Mark in the kitchen, Danny called her back. "Kate, sit with me." Mark noticed the tension. Before leaving, he quietly asked Kate, "Is everything really okay?" "Yes," she replied, but her eyes told a different story. On Monday evening, they had their first real argument. Kate asked permission to go for a walk in the yard. "Why?" Danny asked. "I just want to get some fresh air." "The windows are open. There's plenty of fresh air here." "Danny, I want to go outside." He looked at her intently. "Are you trying to run away from me?" "What? No, Because if you're trying to run away, you should know. You have nowhere to go. Your apartment is rented out. You don't have a job. You have no money." Kate felt a chill of fear. "Danny, I'm not running away. I just want to go for a walk." "If you go out, don't come back," he said quietly. "What do you mean?" "I mean that if you leave this house, you are leaving our marriage. And if you leave our marriage..." He didn't finish the sentence, but there was something frightening in his eyes. Kate sat back down on the sofa. "Okay, I'll stay home." But something had changed in her understanding of the situation. She realized that she wasn't a wife, she was a prisoner. That night, after Danny fell asleep, Kate lay awake, making plans. In the morning, she would tell him she was going to the supermarket to buy groceries. Instead, she would go to Grace and ask for help. She would say the marriage was a mistake. On Tuesday morning at breakfast, she tried to carry out her plan. "Danny, I need to go to the store. We forgot to buy milk. Mark will bring some tomorrow. But I need it today." For the oatmeal, Danny stared at her for a long time. "You want to leave?" "I want to buy milk." "No." His voice became harsh. "You want to go to your friend's house, to tell her what a terrible husband I am." "Danny, you think I don't understand?" He rose from his chair with effort. "You think you can just take off? Leave me?" Kate backed up against the wall. There was a rage in his eyes she had never seen before. "No one leaves me," he said, slowly approaching her. "Especially you. You're my wife. You're mine. Do you understand?" "Danny, you're scaring me. I'm supposed to scare you." He stopped a few inches away from her. "Because if you try to leave me alone, I'll make you regret it." "What do you mean?" Danny leaned closer. "I mean, you'd be better off dead than leaving me." Kate felt a chill of horror run down her spine. "You can't be serious." "Try me," he whispered. "Just try." They stood there for several long seconds, staring into each other's eyes. Then Danny slowly backed away to the chair. "But we don't need to worry about that, do we?" he said, his voice soft again. "Because you love me. And you're not going anywhere." Kate nodded, not trusting her voice. That night, after Danny fell asleep, she quietly got up and went to the window. The streetlights were on, and beyond them stretched the darkness of the desert. She was trapped with a man who had threatened to kill her if she tried to leave. Kate pressed her palm against the glass and cried silently. Wednesday, May 31st, 6:23 a.m. Kate woke up to a sound she couldn't identify at first. Danny was standing by the living room window, breathing heavily and muttering something under his breath. "Danny?" she called softly. He turned around sharply. His face was red, his eyes wide open. "You're going to leave," he said. "I saw you looking at the door, planning your escape." "Danny, I just woke up." "Don't lie to me," he shouted, and Kate flinched. "I've been awake for 2 hours thinking about this. You want to go back to your girlfriend. Tell everyone what a jerk I am." Kate slowly sat up in bed. "Danny, calm down. We can talk." "Talk?" He laughed, but it sounded hysterical. "You think words will change anything? You think I don't understand what's going on?" He began pacing the room, his massive frame making the floor creak. Kate realized he was in a state of complete psychosis. "All my life, people have left me," he continued. "My father left when I was 10. My mother died and left me alone. Everyone who ever said they loved me ended up leaving." "I'm not leaving," Kate said, even though she knew deep down that it was a lie. "Yes, you are." Danny stopped and looked at her. "I can see it in your eyes. You look at me with disgust, like everyone else." Kate got up from the bed, instinctively backing toward the door. "Danny, please, you're scaring me." "Scaring you?" His voice became quiet, which was even scarier than his shouting. "I haven't started scaring you yet." She took a step toward the door, but Danny moved faster than she expected. His hand grabbed her wrist. "Let me go," she said, trying to break free. "No!" His grip tightened. "You're not leaving. Ever. Danny. You're hurting me." "Hurt?" He pulled her closer. "You want to know what pain is? Pain is when the only person you love wants to leave you alone to die." Kate tried to hit him with her free hand, but he easily blocked it. Now he was holding both her hands, his face inches from hers. "If I can't be with you," he whispered, "then no one will." "Danny, no." His hands moved to her throat. Kate tried to scream, but he squeezed tighter. "I love you," he said as he pressed down. "I love you so much. Why can't you just stay?" Kate scratched his hands, tried to push him away, but he was too strong. Her lungs burned from lack of oxygen. The world began to darken at the edges. "Shh," Danny whispered. "It'll be okay. We'll be together forever." The last thing Kate saw was her husband's face, distorted with pain and rage, but still convinced he was right. At 6:31 a.m., Kate Ward Harrison was dead. Danny held her lifeless body for a few more minutes, crying and repeating, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Then the reality of what had happened dawned on him. He let go of Kate, and she fell to the floor. Panic replaced rage. "What have I done?" "Oh God, what have I done?" He looked at his watch. 6:35 a.m. Mark was supposed to come on Thursday, the day after tomorrow. He had time to think. Danny picked up Kate's body. She was light, and even in his condition, it wasn't difficult. He carried her upstairs to the bedroom where he hadn't been in years. Each step was difficult, but the adrenaline helped. The bedroom was dusty and neglected. He laid Kate on the old bed and covered her with a sheet. Then he went downstairs, breathing heavily. In the living room, he tried to remove the traces of the struggle. He straightened the overturned lamp, smoothed out the carpet, and wiped the floor where there might be traces. His hands were shaking. By 7 in the morning, he had made a decision. He had to create an alibi, make it look like he had found her dead. Danny carried the body back down to the living room and laid it near the bed, as if Kate had fallen during the night. He messed up the bed, pretending he had slept alone. Then he took a shower, got dressed, and waited. At 8:47 a.m., he called 911. 911, what is your emergency? My wife isn't breathing. I can't wake her up. Danny tried to sound scared, which wasn't difficult. Sir, what is your name and address? Danny Harrison, 1247 Desert View Drive. Please hurry. We're sending a team to you. Can you check her pulse? Danny paused as if he were checking. No pulse. She's cold. Sir, try CPR. I can't. I have mobility issues. I'm too heavy. Just come, please. The paramedics were the first to arrive at 8:54 a.m. Richard Santos and Maria Gonzalez entered the house and immediately saw Danny in a chair next to the body on the floor. What happened? Santos asked, kneeling down next to Kate. I don't know, Danny sobbed. I woke up and she was lying on the floor. We just got married on Saturday. Gonzalez checked her pulse and breathing. How long has she been lying there? I don't know. I sleep heavily because of my medication. It could have been several hours. The paramedics exchanged glances. The condition of the body indicated that death had occurred some time ago. At 9:12 a.m., the police arrived. Officers Jennifer Lopez and Michael Reed examined the scene and began asking questions. Mr. Harrison, tell us what happened this morning, Officer Lopez said. I woke up around 8:30, Danny began. Kate wasn't in bed. I thought she was in the bathroom. I called her, but there was no answer. Then I saw her on the floor. Did she have any health problems? I don't think so. She was young and healthy, Officer Reed took down his statement. Did you hear anything during the night? Noises, screams? Danny shook his head. Nothing. I take sleeping pills. I sleep very soundly. At 9:45 a.m., Detective Robert Chavez from the El Paso Police Department's Homicide Division arrived. A middle-aged man with graying temples, he had a reputation as a thorough investigator. Chavez examined the body without touching it and immediately noticed something strange. The bruises on Kate's neck were too distinct for a natural death. Mr. Harrison, he said to Danny, I need to ask you a few questions. Of course. Anything that will help find out what happened to my wife. How long have you been married? 5 days. We got married last Saturday. How long have you known each other? 4 months. We met online. Detective Chavez wrote down the answers. Did you have any problems in your relationship? Any arguments? Danny paused too long. No problems. We were very happy. Mr. Harrison, I noticed bruises on your wife's neck. Where do you think they came from? Bruises? Danny feigned surprise. I don't know. Maybe she fell? A fall doesn't usually leave bruises like that. They look more like strangulation marks. Danny's face paled. Strangulation? Who could have strangled her? That's what we're here to find out. Where were you last night? At home. We watched TV, had dinner, went to bed around 11. Can anyone confirm that? No, we were alone. I rarely leave the house because of my health. Detective Chavez noticed the nervousness in Danny's voice. Mr. Harrison, I'll need to search the house. It's standard procedure. Of course, do what you need to do. While the forensic team worked at the scene, Chavez continued his questioning. Tell me about your marriage. Was Kate happy? Very. She said she had never been happier. Did she have any friends? Family who might be concerned about her well-being? Danny tensed. She had a friend, Grace, but they had a falling out before the wedding. Grace didn't even come to the ceremony. What did they fall out over? Grace didn't approve of our relationship. She said Kate was rushing into marriage. The detective wrote this down. Do you have Grace's phone number? I don't know. Kate didn't want to talk to her anymore. At 11:30 a.m., Coroner Dr. Patricia Villanueva arrived. After a preliminary examination, she confirmed the detective's suspicions. The preliminary cause of death is asphyxiation from neck compression, she told Chavez. The time of death is approximately between 6 and 7 in the morning. Mr. Harrison, the detective said, the coroner says your wife died between 6 and 7 in the morning. You said you woke up at 8:30. Is that correct? Danny hesitated. Maybe I woke up earlier. It's hard to say for sure. How much earlier? Maybe it's 7 or 7:30. Why didn't you call an ambulance earlier? I thought she was just sleeping on the floor. Sometimes her back hurt from our bed. Detective Chavez noticed another inconsistency. But you told the paramedics that she was cold when you found her. Danny realized his mistake. Yes. I mean, when I tried to wake her up, she felt cold to me. Mr. Harrison, I think we should continue this conversation at the station. Am I under arrest? No, but you are the main witness in your wife's death. I need to take your official statement. By noon, the house was full of police and forensic investigators. Neighbors gathered on the street, whispering and pointing fingers. Kate's body was carried out in a black bag. Danny sat in his chair, watching the commotion, and realized that his alibi was falling apart. Detective Chavez was too smart, too attentive to detail. When the special vehicle arrived to take him to the station for questioning, Danny took one last look at the house where he had spent his best and worst days. El Paso Police Station, Interrogation Room number 3. 2:15 p.m. Detective Chavez sat across from Danny Harrison at a metal table. A camera recorded every word. Mr. Harrison, you understand that this conversation is being recorded? Yes, Danny wiped the sweat from his forehead. The special chair creaked under his weight. Do you want a lawyer? No, I didn't do anything. I want to help find the person who killed my wife. Chavez opened a folder with photographs. Look at this. Photos of your wife's neck. Danny glanced at the pictures and turned away. That's awful. See these bruises? They form a clear fingerprint. Large hands, strong fingers, maybe a burglar. Mr. Harrison, nothing was missing from the house. The TV, your wife's jewelry, cash, everything is still here. Chavez leaned forward. This wasn't a robbery. It was a crime of passion. Danny was silent, his breathing quickening. Let's go over the timeline again, the detective continued. You said you woke up at 8:30. Then you said 7:30. The coroner determined the time of death to be between 6 and 7 a.m. When did you actually wake up? I don't remember well. I'm on medication. There was a knock at the door. Officer Reed entered. Detective, Mark Stevens is here. He wants to give a statement. Chavez stood up. Mr. Harrison, wait here. Mark looked worried in the hallway. Detective, I have something to tell you about Danny. I'm listening. On Monday, when I brought the groceries, something was wrong. Danny was different, aggressive, and Kate seemed scared. Tell me more. She tried to help me in the kitchen, but Danny wouldn't let her out of his sight for a second. And when I asked if everything was okay, she said yes, but her eyes said otherwise. Chavez took notes. What else? Danny was saying strange things. That no one would take Kate away from him. That she'd be better off dead than leaving him. Mark shook his head. I thought he was just upset, but now, are you ready to give your official statement? Yes. An hour later, Grace Morales arrived at the station. She was pale but determined. "I should have gone to the wedding," she told the detective. "I should have stopped her." "Tell me about your concerns." "Danny Harrison is mentally unstable. I checked his medical history through my connections at the bank. Panic attacks, paranoid episodes, calls to the police about non-existent stalkers." Grace took out her phone. "I have recordings of our last conversations with Kate." She played the voice message. Kate's voice sounded quiet, frightened. "Grace, you were right. Danny isn't who he seemed to be. He controls my every move. I can't even leave the house. If anything happens to me, it will be him." The message was sent on Tuesday at 11:47 p.m., a few hours before her death. "Why didn't you come to the police earlier?" Chavez asked. "I didn't get that message until Wednesday morning when it was too late. Kate sent it during the night while I was asleep. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, the detective had enough to make an arrest, but he decided to give Danny one last chance to tell the truth. "Mr. Harrison, we have witness statements that you threatened your wife. We have her voice message, recorded a few hours before her death. In it, she says she's afraid of you." Danny's face turned pale. "What message?" Chavez played the recording. Kate's voice filled the room. Danny closed his eyes and groaned softly. "She was going to leave me," he whispered. "And you couldn't let that happen? You don't understand. I've been alone my whole life. Kate was the only one who saw me as a person, not a freak." Tears began to stream down his cheeks. "When she said she wanted to leave? What happened on Wednesday morning?" Danny was silent for a long minute. Then he began to speak quietly, monotonously. "I woke up early. I saw her looking at the door. I realized she was planning to run away. We argued. I told her I wouldn't let her go, and she said she hated me, that the marriage was a mistake." "And what did you do?" "I grabbed her. I just wanted to hold her. But she tried to break free, to scream." His voice broke. "I didn't want to kill her. I just wanted her to shut up, to stop saying she was leaving." "Did you strangle her?" Danny nodded without looking up. "When I realized what I had done, I tried to fix it. I moved her upstairs, then back down. I thought I could say I found her dead." "Danny Harrison, you are under arrest for the murder of Kate Harrison." Danny did not resist as they put special-sized handcuffs on him. "She was a good girl," he said as he was led away. "She didn't deserve a husband like me." The trial took place 4 months later. Danny pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for life imprisonment without parole. Aunt Linda, Grace, and Mark were present at the hearing. Danny's family was not there. He was truly alone. "Your Honor," Danny said before sentencing, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Kate was the only light in my life, and I extinguished it. She wanted love, but she got a monster." The judge sentenced him to life in prison without parole. After the trial, Grace gave an interview to a local newspaper. "Kate was a naive, romantic girl who believed that love could change a person," she said. "But love doesn't cure mental illness. It doesn't cure obsession. Sometimes love becomes a prison." Mark stopped visiting Danny after his arrest. "I thought I knew him," he told Detective Chavez, "but the man who killed Kate was a stranger." In prison, Danny was placed in solitary confinement because of his size and mental state. He refused visitors and spent his days reading and watching television. The prison psychiatrist, Dr. Martinez, diagnosed him with severe attachment disorder and recommended therapy. "Danny Harrison represents a classic case of murder motivated by obsession," he wrote in his report. "His physical isolation and emotional trauma created a toxic mixture of despair and possessiveness. He saw his wife not as a person, but as a salvation from loneliness." A year later, Detective Chavez visited Kate's grave at Evergreen Cemetery. A simple gray stone read, "Kate Ward, 1997 to 2025, beloved daughter and friend." Aunt Linda came every week, leaving fresh flowers. "She just wanted to be loved," she told the detective during one of her visits. Kate always believed she would find her fairy tale. But some fairy tales end in tragedy. The house on Desert View Drive stood empty for 2 years before it was demolished. Neighbors said that sometimes lights were on at night, even though the electricity had been turned off. Grace Morales became a volunteer at a shelter for women who had been victims of domestic violence. Kate taught me an important lesson, she told new clients. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. The insurance company paid $250,000 to Aunt Linda as Kate's sole heir. She used the money to set up a fund to help women in financial difficulty find safe housing. Kate did not die in vain if her story saves even one life, Linda said at the fund's opening. Danny Harrison died in prison 3 years after his conviction from a heart attack. He was 38 years old. No one came to his funeral. In his last entry in his prison diary, he wrote, "Every night I see her face. Not angry or scared, just the way it was when we first met, full of hope. I didn't just kill Kate, I killed her hope for love. That's worse than any punishment." The story of Kate Ward and Danny Harrison has become a subject of study in criminal psychology courses. The case demonstrated how social isolation, mental illness, and despair can turn love into obsession, and obsession into murder. Detective Chavez, shortly before his retirement, included this case in his training seminar for young officers. "Domestic violence doesn't always look like bruises and broken bones," he said. "Sometimes it's isolation, control, psychological pressure. Kate Harrison was emotionally dead long before Danny strangled her physically." In police records, the case is closed as domestic violence homicide, solved. But for those who knew Kate, it was a story of a woman who sought love and found death, and a man who didn't understand the difference between love and possession.